Bretton from A&BPrivateTutors, where we help students ace the MCAT. Today, we're going to be diving into what we are actual experts at, which is strategy on the MCAT. There are 7 essential strategies that I've identified as absolutely critical for acing the MCAT over my years of teaching and over 1,000 students helped. And today, I'm going to be sharing an overview of all of these strategies with you right here for absolutely free. If you want a more in-depth explanation of these strategies, you can check out the links in the description. Let's begin with this really cool loading screen and then jumping into kind of an overview of the 7. So over this video, there are a lot of strategies and I can't cover them all in depth. So we're going to kind of go over the basics, which will give you enough to get you started. Again, I mentioned down in the description, I've got a free roadmap to a 528, which you can download absolutely free of charge. And there are more things I'll talk about later, but these are kind of the big strategies we're talking about. And the one thing that these all have in common is they will maximize your amount of points per unit time on the MCAT, which is the ultimate strategy. So let's begin with the most powerful strategy. And this is something that I've kept locked away for a long time, but I'm giving it away for absolutely free right now. And this single-handedly can raise your score 4 points in almost 10 minutes of practice. So what is it? Well, it's about reprioritizing the questions in your exam. And this relies on 2 main tenets. Tenet 1 is that all questions are worth the exact same amount of points. And the second tenet is not all questions are created equally. Some questions are a lot harder than others. I know for me, it takes me a lot longer to solve an electrochemistry question than it does a simple cell biology question. Relying on these 2 axioms, we can then say, well, why would I want to spend time on hard questions? If I can get more points on easy questions, my score will be higher and I'll get a higher score compared to my peers. It's kind of like your GPA senior year. By the time senior year rolls around, sure, if you get a 4.0, it might raise your GPA a little bit. But on the other hand, if you bomb your senior year and fail everything, well, your GPA probably won't change that much. So the whole thought here is reorder your exam. Take the easy questions, those easy passages first, then the mediums, and end with the hards. And there are a lot of different ways where you can order these. Again, for more in-depth on how to do this, check out the links in the description. In addition to prioritizing your exam, you'll also want to make what I call flow diagrams, and you can do these for the science section and the cars section. First, we want to realize not all information the AAMC is giving you is important, and being able to filter between that unimportant and truly key important information on the MCAT makes a huge difference. So how do we know what's likely to be tested, right? If we just knew, wouldn't life be easy? There are 2 things that the MCAT is very likely to test when it comes to science: the main idea of the paragraph and the relationships between variables. And if you've ever done a biochemistry problem on the MCAT, you know that there are a lot of relationships between variables. So we want some sort of method for understanding and remembering this testable information. The way to do that is by creating a flow diagram, literally writing these things out in an abridged form using a lot of symbolism to keep it nice and fast will help you not only understand, but also you can go back to that flow diagram later and add new information from those questions to do some problem solving. Another incredibly powerful strategy is to algorithmically answer questions. If you are starting to get really good at the MCAT, or even if you haven't gotten great yet, and that's okay, one of the problems that plagues almost everyone is falling for silly mistakes. This was the biggest problem I had. I would take my practice exam, review it, and be like, how the heck did I make that mistake? That seems so simple now. Why did I pick such a silly answer? And by having an algorithm like this, you will not have that happen to you anymore. So how do you do this? Well, it's a 4-step process that I've come up over, again, thousands of students of teaching. First thing you want to do is figure out, is this information connected or disconnected from the passage? Next is, what is the science actually being tested here? Is this cell biology, gen chem? What do I need to know? This primes your brain to start thinking of creative solutions. And then, I know it sounds silly, but it's so powerful. Reword the question. Put it in simple terms. If you've got some crazy science question, make it easy. Dumb it down. Pretend like you're asking the question to a 4th grader. Finally, after you've come up with a good reword of the question, then try and forecast an answer. Predict what a possible good answer would look like. And if you can't make a good prediction, that's okay. Go and remove obvious wrong choices. Well, how can you figure out if they're obviously wrong? That could be from content, or there are also some common wrong answer patterns that we're about to talk about. Before we get to those wrong patterns, how about a CARS flow diagram? So flow diagrams, incredibly important, we established for science, but CARS, still super important. CARS is the section that most students struggle with. So we need some sort of strategy to improve that. And flow diagrams, absolutely amazing. So what is the testable information for CARS then? 3 big things. We've got the main idea, author's tone, and argument structure. Now, main idea, that's pretty straightforward. Why is this paragraph here? But author's tone is really nebulous, especially if you're a native English speaker, right? You read the passage and you're like, the author feels angry, maybe? I don't know why, but it feels that way. We can do better than that. You're going to be a doctor, right? You're going to be a scientist. So there are actual words we can look for that can tell us when it's author's tone. And these are adjectives that don't really need to be there. Again, this is a really big lesson in the program I have, so I can't spend too much time on it right now because it would take the whole video. But again, check those links below. An argument structure is really made up of finding those evidence and conclusion keywords. That is huge. If you can understand, well, what's the proof behind someone's argument and what is the conclusion of your argument? Why are you arguing in the first place? Cars suddenly becomes a breeze. Because if you look at the answers on Cars, about 33% of them have to do with the main idea. Another 33% have to do with author's tone, and the final third is about arguments. So most people are just focusing on main idea, and that's why they're really struggling with Cars. By being able to understand author's tone and argument structure, you can get those 66% of questions that might have been holding you back. Now, the very first step, the prioritization step, every single student I've ever had is like, Bretton, sounds like a horrible idea. You want me to spend time up front to try and figure out if something's easy, medium, or hard? I do, because it will only take 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes if you're really slow. The other crazy thing is, if you're doing the prioritization, time is no longer the enemy because you're making sure you're getting those easy, medium problems. So who cares about the hard ones? You probably weren't going to get them anyway. But for Cars, we want to at least, give a shot to those hard ones. You wouldn't speed read every passage on Cars, but you do want to speed read those last maybe 2 to 3 hard ones where there's a low chance you're going to get it anyway, and you just are trying to grab some extra points. And the great thing about speed reading on Cars is it actually doesn't matter how fast you read, which sounds crazy, right? I'm saying speed reading, but speed doesn't matter. It doesn't. It's not about how fast you're reading. It's about what you're reading. I want you to read smarter, not faster. The way I recommend you do this is what I call the sandwich method. I put up a cookie sandwich here. So essentially the sandwich method is saying you want to read the first paragraph, the last paragraph, and then the first and last sentences of every paragraph within the passage. So it's sort of like a cookie within a cookie, a sandwich within a sandwich. This is because the main idea, author's tone, and usually conclusion to arguments can be found in the beginning, in the first and last paragraph, as well as that first and last sentences. Typically, the middle of the paragraph is fluff. And if you get really good at Cars speed reading, you can actually answer about 80% of the questions correct on a passage while only reading maybe half of the material. It's an absolute amazing strategy that I talk so much about and have a ton of practice problems with. And then we're almost there, just 2 more strategies, and they are incredibly powerful. So my absolute favorite one is the math strategy. Now, if you're going to medical school or trying to get to medical school, if you're taking the MCAT, a lot of people don't like math. A lot of people want to be doctors because they love biology, and I totally hear that. We still need to handle math, though. It's still a problem on the MCAT. There's no calculator, so you need to be okay at it, or at least have some really good strategies to avoid doing math. So the first thing you want to do whenever you see a math problem is try and find some patterns within those answer choices. So what I'll do is see, okay, what could I multiply A by to get to B? Well, that's just a factor of 2. Well, how about B to C? Well, this is a factor of 100. And then B to D, this is a factor of 1,000. And whenever I see a factor of 1,000, I get really excited. And you're probably like, why, Bretton? Why did you just do this? This feels like a waste of time. You didn't even read the question. Who cares about these numbers? You're about to see some magic. Just kind of scanning through this question here. I see, okay, I'm going to be in milligrams. I'm using milligrams at some point. And the answer should be in. So we want to think about how the MCAT gets wrong answers in the first place. Well, I'll tell you, all of the wrong answers on the math section, they're not random. It's not like they're just saying 6.894. No, these are all common mistakes people make on the MCAT, either forgetting to multiply, dividing when they should have multiplied, doing exponents wrong. Typically, it's multiplication division, or in this case, it's going to be a unit conversion. Because how many times have you been there and forgotten to convert your units? I know that's something I've fallen for, but now we're going to turn that weakness into our superpower. Because I know I'm trying to go from milligrams in the question at some point to grams, and I don't even care how to solve this problem. I don't care. I know I'm multiplying by milligrams at some point, so I know my answer is going to be milligrams. So if I want to go from milligrams to grams, well, I just have to divide by 1,000, right? So we can do that for our answer. Only one of these answers is a factor of 1,000 smaller than the other, and that is answer choice B. I didn't do any math. I did some black magic for the MCAT to get B. And you can do this too. And if you want, you can solve this. And that's my challenge for you. See if you can figure out how to solve this problem. But I promise you, the answer is going to be B. And this isn't something I just cherry picked. You can do this on so many problems on the MCAT. But if you can't, and that happens sometimes, you have two choices. If you really don't like math, skip it. Make this the hard one that you get wrong and someone else wastes time on. If it's going to take you more than 2 minutes, go get some easy questions. There's some easy genetics. There's some easy cell bio. Leave the scary math for the physics majors. Or better yet, leave it for other people to waste their time on, lowering the curve. Other important strategies you can do with math is figure out when to round and what should you round. So again, if we kind of look at just these numbers, we see that there's a 1 here and then 2, 2, 2 for the numbers in front. So because they're not all the same, zeros do matter. So we can't just get rid of the zeros. And because the number in front is different, we also can't do any big rounding like this. So in this case, there's no special rounding we can do. So we would have to actually do the math, which usually not a great idea because it's going to take so long. So at the very least, because we can't do easy rounding, let's skip this and save it for the end. If you have extra time, awesome, go and get it. But otherwise, don't worry about it. And if you thought that was some MCAT magic, that was just on math questions. There are similar patterns on every single question within the MCAT. In fact, every wrong answer on the MCAT can be classified into 4 distinct types. Either it's the reverse of the right answer, it's drastic, meaning there's a lot of big extreme language being used like only, must, could be a misapplication of knowledge, or it could be beyond your expected knowledge where you don't need to know that for the MCAT. Of course, it can't be the right answer. And if you can really master noticing these wrong answer patterns, you can super speed up your exam, as well as help you choose in that 50-50 situation. I know all of us has been there when it's like, okay, I got rid of A, I got rid of D, now I'm between B and C. Well, by looking at these common wrong patterns, it'd be a great way to make that tiebreaker. You see, oh, well, B has the word only. And the nice thing about science is not drastic. Science is not extreme. Science needs to be couched. So we want to have as many possibilities as possible there. Again, if you're anything like me, these will prevent you from making silly mistakes that ultimately cost you a higher MCAT score. So we covered a lot in this video, and it gave you a broad overview of all of the strategies that I specialize in teaching. So if you want to learn more about these, you can definitely do that by getting the free roadmap to a 528 MCAT guide in the description below. You could also hop on a free 30-minute strategy call with me, which I do not offer very often. So take advantage of this while you can. I was booked out last week's on like Monday. So you want to make sure you get a hold of this quickly. And then the other option for getting more information about these strategies is you can check out my website, A&BPrivateTutors.com. And I have a ton of different options for a bunch of different people. If you like to prepare for the MCAT at your own pace, awesome, go right ahead. I've got a ton of free resources for you. Just go to my website, go get those. Crush this thing. If you want a bit of semi-guided prep, I've got a ton of different options, including there's a program, we've got small group tutoring. And then finally, if you want fully guided prep where you really need that one-on-one help, well, you could work with me or another amazing tutor using our comprehensive MCAT prep program. But either way, no matter what you do, I would love to hear from you. Let me know if this was helpful, if there are any questions. Thank you so much for watching our video, and good luck crushing your MCAT. Also, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm planning on releasing a ton of key insider MCAT information very soon, and I don't want you to miss that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.